and work it out. 'Cause giving in is oh so hard, but love is at stake. Where there's a will, there's a way. Now if we only knew how, learning to love, learning to laugh and fear, learning to fight through these years that bring us closer together. Learning to love, learning the first golden rule, knowing that anything is possible. 'Cause nothing's gonna keep us from learning the ropes.
Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Learning the Ropes. I'm XLJ, the OG, joined by my partner in crime, my other brother from my other mother, one Mr. Michael J. Duplessis. How you doing, bro?
Good, how are you, fam?
Doing good, man. Doing good for Thursday night. It's a little snowy here in the Midwest, but, you know, a little cold, but we're hanging in there because we're staying in your house, which is what we're talking about tonight. Huzzah!
Nice.
Yes, had to do it. Had to get a couple dad jokes in there before we get started here tonight. But we thank you all for joining us here tonight on Cold TV on Learning the Ropes. And yes, we are talking about WWF In Your House. Just kind of, it's a fun show. This is gonna be a fun episode because In Your House was a fun show. You were just watching some before we went on the air.
I was watching In Your House 3. I had watched the first 2 this morning. I loved In Your House. I had I talked about my admiration for the video game.
Yeah.
So that era is very near and dear to my heart.
I agree right there with you. But as we always do here on Learning the Ropes, before we get too heavy into it, let's start it off with a Plug-a-Palooza. And yes, the soundboard's back. I got my stuff working. So as far as Cold TV, as far as what we got cooking, this week kind of not a whole lot we got going on. Of course, we're gearing up here because April is going to be bonkers with WrestleMania week. Officially go ahead and announce this tonight too. We're going to have a week here on Cold TV that is dedicated to nothing but the collective. So we will have all the collective vlogs, which we're gonna try to go to all the shows. We got tickets for all the shows, but I don't know. That's a lot of wrestling to go to in a 3-day.
There's one show that doesn't start till like midnight.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to stay up that late?
My old ass is gonna try, brother. We're gonna try.
Shout out to the culture. That's
Yes.
gonna be a great show.
I do want to get to that show. There's a couple. Like I didn't get to go to Bloodsport last year, so I'm excited about checking that out too. It's gonna be a good collective, man. There's so many good shows they got.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that Dragon Gate show too to kick things off. That's gonna be pretty dope. Oh
That's like not in the same building. You actually got tickets to that?
I did, yeah. Second row, baby. Oh yeah.
I'm happy Dragon Gate's back.
I am too. I think it's pretty exciting. It's also cool the venue. So it's at the Palms there in Vegas. So the venue where it's at, it's literally on the roof more or less. Like it's got a whole.
I saw the pictures and I was like, oh,
it's
that's
pretty
crazy.
It's gonna be a pretty dope show. It'll be a hell of a way to kick off the collective, hell of a week to kick off WrestleMania week. But that being said, like I said, in April, we're going to have a WrestleMania week. We'll have Squared Circle Expo week, and we'll have Collective week. So April is going to be loaded up for Gold TV. But for this week, you can catch a replay of PW60. And, of course, we're here with you live tonight with Learning the Ropes. So, of course, don't forget, you can get some of our sweet merch over on ProWrestlingTees.com. We got a PW60 shirt, a Cold TV shirt, and one day, I promise, we're going to have more merch over there. So, work in progress. Also, let's talk about Wreckage here for a minute because there is a new Wreckage episode out over on World Championship Wreckage where they talk about the Asylum years. And also, I had the distinct privilege.
I want to explain to the people who don't know.
Yes, so the Asylum years, that's essentially the first years in TNA. This is when they were running out of the fairgrounds in Nashville. So this is like when TNA very first started.
Yeah.
Way back.
02 to 04, 05, yeah.
Yeah. But also, you, my friend, you have got Netflix and Raw every
Netflix
Monday
and
night.
Raw.
Yes.
Me, the pro wrestling wizard Doug, and the ring queen Michaela from La Familia live streaming and hanging out watching Monday Night Raw every Monday. And we do have guests every once in a while. It's been a fun, entertaining time. I'm so happy I'm being able to do that. Uh, yeah, got that. Once all the Raws are back or are on Netflix, Queen's Court will be coming back.
It's coming
Uh,
back.
we have a few things coming up, possibly with Queen's Court, while we're waiting for those. So be on the lookout for that. Me,
Absolutely.
Bree, and Husky have a little things discussed.
And I am making it a goal. I'm hopeful this weekend to start working on this to finally get Fantasy Warfare back. Just life, man. Life's happening.
Facts.
At work, crazy busy, but it's all good, brother. It's all good. But check out World Championship Wreckage. Yeah, I had the privilege of joining Mike this past Monday night. It was we had a really fun time with our tribal queen Bree,
Yes.
watching some Raw and talking cream pies.
Shout out to my sister Bree and the bull crap she has to put up with me. She had to put up with me on
And me.
Monday, yesterday during Dynamite. Hey,
Yeah.
shout out to
Yep.
Chrissy Tina.
Shout out to Chrissy. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also want to give a shout out to a good buddy of ours. You know him, you love him. The Wrestle Talk Drip got himself Hambone. He's going through some rough times right now. His dog got in a serious accident this past week. There is if you follow him, there is a GoFundMe for his dog Buddy, who Buddy's doing better, but he's still got a long ways to go. So if you can, even if you can just post it on your socials or something, share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, everybody. And if you can donate a little bit, that's wonderful too. But shout out to Hambone. We're thinking about you, brother. We love you. And we hope Buddy is doing A-okay. So, all right. That being said, let's get right into it. Let's talk some In Your House. Let me ask you this, Mike. What's kind of like some of your first real memories of In Your House, like how it all began?
Oh, so when it all began, I wasn't watching wrestling.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I had came into wrestling like a year or two after that started.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't start really watching until 97.
See, it's interesting for me because it's like I kind of watched it sporadically as a kid, but for whatever reason, I don't know why, but the first real year I can remember from beginning to end was 95 for me. Like that's when I started retaining knowledge and becoming more obsessed with pro wrestling. And 1995 is the year where In Your House was born. Like it's interesting because essentially WWF came up with this concept to really counteract their competitors WCW because it got to a point where WCW was starting to do monthly pay-per-views. Because and I know this sounds crazy and weird to you all, but the back in the day, like pay-per-views and big premium live events as they're called today, they didn't happen every month. Like it was like several months to build to these shows. So back in the day, of course, we all know WWF had the big four. You know, on the WCW sides of things, you know, you had Starrcade and like Halloween Havoc, Great American Bash, and so on. But once WCW started doing the monthly shows, and it's like, well, WWF's like, here, hold my beer. Now, essentially, though, when they introduced In Your House, it was as kind of like a filler, more or less, in between the next true big pay-per-view, which would be like a SummerSlam, a King of the Ring, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, etc.
My first In Your House memory was Bad Blood in 97.
Oh, wow. In 97. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
With Kane. The Kane debut. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look at this list, there's some tremendous matches, moments in professional wrestling history and WWF history. Some first, you know, there is a lot of significant happenings at these In Your House shows. So.
Yeah, because my uncle rented that pay-per-view, and I remember being like, when Kane came out, like freaking out.
Yeah, that's gotta be Kane. Now, originally when they started, they didn't start off actually as a traditional 3-hour show. It was actually a 2-hour show, and the idea behind this was to make it a little bit cheaper. I think they used to be like $20 back in the day or something.
Yeah, because pay-per-view companies paid put money in for the hour,
Yeah.
so it was
So
kind of like
So they
made
did
it
it more or
cheaper.
less as like, okay, we're only going to be on for 2 hours because it wasn't like a full 3-hour show. Now, the other thing I remember about the In Your House, and mainly the first In Your House, was the house giveaway. Hence the name In Your House. So, like, they actually legitimately gave a house away. I can remember this, Michael. I only entered 2 contests as a kid growing up. I remember one was to win this house, and 2 was like the SummerSlam '97 like casket full of money sweepstakes they did.
That's hilarious.
Those was the only 2 contests I ever filled out as a kid, I remember.
I watched the first one today, or yeah, watched the first one this morning, and yeah, great concept. But
Mhm.
I have this thing, especially when it comes to like this pay per view or like TV shows like Pin My Ride. It's just like, how do you know the person getting the house is going to be able to afford
The house. Yeah.
afterwards, and the taxes and the like
Yeah.
the monthly? It's just like great concept. This probably that's probably they probably only did it once because this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, because the house was actually in Florida is where
Yeah,
where it was located.
I was like, so
Uh,
we're just gonna have someone move their asses to Florida just for the fun of it because
yeah.
they like.
You're gonna have property
Sorry, I had to
taxes.
use my brain watching that. I was like, this makes no
Yeah,
goddamn
I I
sense.
would think it. I remember as a kid being like, "Oh, this will be so cool to get a house." Like, could you imagine if you did win? Your parents like, "Oh, fuck, I don't want to move. Oh, property taxes there. Oh, wait a minute, what's the cost of living there?" There's a lot of factors that go into moving. It ain't just
Yeah,
like here's a
and
house.
like where in Florida? Because like Miami at the time was a hotbed and was probably expensive as all hell.
And, that's. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I do wonder where the first house was. Like, I know. I want to. I don't know why. I guess because it's like I'm thinking the model Rick Martel is like I think it's Cocoa Beach.
Oh, that's
I
hilarious.
don't think that's really where it is though. So
But yeah, so it's just like as an adult now watching that, the concept is crazy.
yeah, the concept's great. Also, too, huge shout out to the aesthetics of the shows. I love like them coming through the house, like through the
Yeah,
door. Like the sets was pretty dope. So
the sets are amazing. The pay per views are great, but yeah, the concept of the giveaway in the first pay per view, wild.
okay, Orlando, Florida. That's where the house was.
Oh, even crazier, right in
Yeah,
Disney area,
right in
nuts.
Disney area. Yeah, yeah. Y'all want to move to Disney? It's like
Like taxes are through the roof. Like that is just yeah.
Yep, that's gonna be a hard pass. Well, let's talk about the first In Your House, which took place there in right after really WrestleMania 11. It's really cool because I think what a lot of people don't realize this is your very first match in Your House history was actually a hidden gem matchup, and I believe one of the only times these two met on television. Uh, Bret the Hitman Hart against the modern day kamikaze Hakushi.
Yes.
This is a great match. Such a good
Looks
match.
phenomenal. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
actually, for once, actually intrigued with the Bret Hart match.
I was waiting for it.
I think that also has to do with the storyline and the heelness of Hakushi.
Yes.
Because, like, Hakushi at this time was like one of those heels are like, oh, this dude's not there in the head. Like, he had the Bret Hall, like, head
Yeah. That was
with the,
weird.
yeah, with the blood coming out of it. That was just like, oh,
Wha
he's wanting to actually kill this man.
what are we doing here?
And then you had Saito from the Oriental Express as his manager,
Yep. Mhm.
which was a
Um, oh god,
beautiful
what was his name as Hakushi's manager? I'm trying to remember.
Shinga
Yes, yes, yes,
Sinja.
yeah. Sinja, yes. But this was a great matchup, a great way to kick off any show. Of course, Brett picking up the win. Now
You
the
know what
big
the dark match for this was?
no, what was the dark match for the show?
It was, well,
I remember what
there,
some of them afterwards because it was on the In Your House cassette. I do remember
yeah.
that.
The first dark match was a one Jean Pierre Lafitte, aka PCO, versus Bob Holly.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. That sounds about that time frame. I know
You
after the show went off the air, they did like what was it, Tatanka and Bam Bam, I think, and they did
they did they had Undertaker versus Kama,
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Bam Bam versus Tatanka, and then Owen versus the British Bull.
There you go. Some great matches.
In King of the Ring qualifying matches of all things.
Yeah, there was a King of the Ring qualifier on the show. You had Mabel against Adam Bomb. Of course, Mabel would be the winner that year.
Yeah.
Yikes. But with the whole Brett storyline is he wrestled 2 matches on this show as he picked up his rivalry again with one Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah.
And this show did take place on Mother's Day, so a lot of Jerry Lawler, Helen Hart jokes going on all throughout.
God, the worst era of Jerry the King Lawler ever is just him dogging the Hart family from like 93 to like 96.
Yeah, it went on. Yeah, it did go on for that long, pretty much. I didn't mind it. I thought I was okay with it, but
The old jokes got old very quickly as we go through on Queen's Court. Probably back then weren't as bad, but as we watch Queen's Court, it was like okay,
it's a little cringe.
yeah, okay, Jerry, like shush.
Shut your mouth, Jerry. Of course, Jerry ended up picking the win because it was interesting at the end of the Brett Hakushi match. He acted like he messed his ankle up, which wasn't the case. He was just messing with Lawler.
Yeah.
But Lawler did end up ultimately winning the match, and their rivalry would continue all throughout the summer.
Yeah.
Speaking of another rivalry going on at the time was one between then Intercontinental Champion Double J Jeff Jarrett and Razor Ramon.
Yes.
What
This
was
match was really good. And
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett had the roadie, aka BG James. I always forget that Road Dogg managed before blowing up with the New Age Outlaws.
Oh yeah. Yep, he was the roadie for Double J. Originally it was supposed to be a tag match, but 1-2-3 Kid got hurt at the time, so thus it was a handicap match with Razor going up against the roadie and Double J. Also on this show, you had the return matchup from WrestleMania 11 for the tag team titles. As the Smoking Guns would challenge the Yokozuna and Owen Hart. Of course, Yoko and Owen picking up the win and retaining there. But the big main event was the fallout from the night after WrestleMania 11 with Psycho Sid challenging Big Daddy Cool Diesel for the WWF Championship. Which I mean, on paper, it's like, okay, 2 big dudes who use the power bomb as a finisher. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Their rivalry was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, it I don't know why, but it just didn't work. It just the best way to describe it didn't work. Like were they bad matches? No, but it just I don't know. It just didn't work really. And I don't know if that maybe it was because at this point Sid's in the $1 Million Corporation. Like I don't know. It just
it's a weird part of the $1 Million Corporation too.
It is. Yeah.
It's past the Undertaker feud, which is why the faction got made in the first place. And then they just kind of gave them weird little semi feuds.
Right.
Nothing really stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of like meh. So yeah, that was pretty much In Your House 1. Like a couple hidden gem matches in there. But we fast forward a couple months later to In Your House 2, coming to you live from Nashville, Tennessee. And this show was all about the homecoming of one JEFF JARRET, baby. Of course, the big story going into this was Jeff Jarrett was finally going to sing in front of a live audience with his band. With his #1 hit with My Baby Tonight.
That's what it's called. I was like, I can't remember the song.
Oh, come on, bro. You know you're with your bit. You love that song. Let me ask you, which is better, With My Baby Tonight or the West Texas Rednecks Rap is Crap?
Oh, with my baby tonight.
That's
I have issues with the West Texas Rednecks gimmick. I have major issues with
for
that gimmick.
obvious reasons. I mean, I know you were hooty hoo. You were bowdy and
Oh,
rowdy
no,
rowdy.
that's not my issues with the faction.
Oh, okay.
My issues with the West Texas Rednecks is they're called the West Texas Rednecks. Only one of them is from Texas. He gets kicked out the group early. He gets fired. And the main mouthpiece is from Minnesota.
Kendall, so the Wyndhams were from Texas.
No, they're not.
I thought Kendall was from, well, Barry's from
No.
Sweetwater. Isn't Barry from
Oh.
Sweetwater?
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know about I would assume Kendall's from the same. Well, we're not talking about West Texas Rednecks. We're talking.
I'm just saying, it's kind of funny that, you know, your mouthpiece for the West Texas Rednecks is from Robbinsdale, Minnesota.
Yeah, but he loved Richard Petty though. Thought he was
Okay,
still
so
king.
the Wyndhams are from Texas.
I was thinking they were, but anyways. So yes, In Your House 2, all about Jeff Jarrett. Of course, he does his song, which may be some of the best lip syncing we at the time we had seen since Milli Vanilli.
So funny.
Yes.
That whole storyline is great.
Yeah. Because I mean, Jarrett at this time, this was Jeff Jarrett's first run as Intercontinental Champion, which was a good run, whether you love or hate the man. He had a good, solid run that first run as the heel chicken shit heel champion.
Yeah.
You know, the show starts off with the roadie going up against 1-2-3 Kid. Of course, roadie picking up one. So it's like all the momentum's with Jeff Jarrett as he goes into his Intercontinental Championship match against Shawn Michaels. I mean, it's his hometown. And honestly, I think this is probably maybe Jeff Jarrett's best match in the WWF. This is a good This is like a classic. This is another hidden gem, I'd say. It's like an IC title match. This is a good Intercontinental title fight.
Oh yeah. No, sure. Yeah, Shawn and Jeff Jarrett had a phenomenal match.
And of course, at this point, Shawn come back, you know, and everybody's loving Shawn. He's the boy toy. He's a white meat baby face.
Yeah, this was the height of him and Diesel as like top baby faces.
The two dudes with attitudes.
Yeah, where the whole clique is baby faces on screen.
Yeah.
And then, well, you hear about the stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's another story. But of course, Shawn Michaels, and there's the finish. So you know, Rhodey is going to go. He thinks he's going for Shawn Michaels' foot, but he accidentally gets Jeff Jarrett. And then, of course, Shawn hits the Sweet Chin Music and thus wins the IC title. And then it's like the fallout from this with Jeff Jarrett and the Rhodey. Of course, later on, we find out Rhodey was the one that was singing all along. It wasn't Double J. It was the Rhodey all along. Good stuff. Yeah. But I mean, that was kind of the big story within Your House too. I mean, there's some other matches on here. It's not,
you have the lumberjack match.
Yeah, the main event. So the main event. Let's talk about that. The main event was a rematch from the first In Your House with Big Daddy Cool Diesel going against Psycho Sid. Only this time in a lumberjack match for the WWF Championship.
Really good lumberjack match. I'll give it to him. I think there's elements with the people outside. Their in-ring work still did not connect, but I think especially at the end there.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, but they needed a gimmick or they needed something like this to make
that's
it
what I'm saying. Like
yeah.
if it was just another rematch, be like whatever.
Like,
but I think, especially when the lumberjacks interfere and like Sid tries to get himself the match a no contest by just beating up the lumberjacks, and then Shawn's like, "Fuck no, you're not."
Yeah. And you also get kind of some setup for next month's show, whether you wanted to see this or not, with Mabel attacking Diesel, and thus we get the matchup, the dreaded matchup at SummerSlam. But yeah. Speaking of men on a Mabel and men on a mission, they were in action on this show as well in a tag match going up against Razor Ramon and Savio Vega. Also, speaking of tag, we had a tag team title match with Owen Hart and Yokozuna against the short-lived, but I love these guys growing up, the Allied Powers, Lex Luger and British Bulldog.
It was a weird tag team.
It was, but it was they were joined forces, USA and the UK. Everything was good. I love, you know what I love most about the Allied Powers, dude? Their entrance, the mix with the Bulldog and Luger's theme.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing.
There's them trying to push Luger down your throats is like the next Hulk Hogan. And it doesn't work as a single star. So it's like, okay, let's see if it will work as a tag team star.
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, at this point, it's like it's failed, but it's just
It's
like,
literally all right. End of Hogan's run. It wasn't working as a single stars anymore. So what does they do? They team him with Brutus, and they have that weird match at WrestleMania 9.
Yeah,
it's literally the same exact thing.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. And of course, also in action, you have Bam Bam Bigelow going up against one Henry O. Godwin.
I love the Godwin gimmick.
Oh, I did too, man. I love the Hog Man, and like if you think about it, like too, it's kind of like some of these matches are kind of like that are quote unquote filler, but it's like kind of there for like okay, well, it's getting so exposed on a pay per view audience, so you know.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about what you were watching today. In Your House. What you was watching before we went on In Your House 3.
Yes.
Now, what this show's most known for is the main event. It was winner take all, pretty much, for the tag team championships as well as the Intercontinental and WWF title. Of course, you got Diesel and Shawn as your Intercontinental or your WWF and Intercontinental champion, and of course, Yokozuna and Owen Hart were the tag champions. But Owen Hart
does not show up.
So we get a substitute in the recently turned heel British Bulldog. Owens
Camp Cornette at this time was on fire.
I love Camp Cornette, and Camp Cornette is involved in a lot of these early In Your Houses too, man.
Yes.
But this was an interesting concept because it's like WWF really hasn't done anything like this back in the day. It was cool to see, man. So it's a fun matchup, a good solid matchup. Of course, Diesel and Shawn would win the match. However, they wouldn't win the tag titles, considering the fact that there was a loophole and the fact that the British Bulldog was the one that was pinned. So,
yeah.
There you go. Also, there was a couple rivalries going into this one. This is a weird one because of what they were feuding over. Bret Hart and Jean-Pierre Lafitte. Because they were feuding over Bret Hart's jacket.
Now I know why PCO wanted out of that company so bad.
So is this like the original like CM Punk Drew bracelet like thing? You know,
It's very much that. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's just like, what are we doing?
Like it's like hell. There's someone feuding over a jacket right now in AEW. With Prince Nana.
Oh, yeah.
And Ricochet. Yeah. And the Jimmy Rave jacket.
The greatest promo of all time, Ricochet.
I hate when you do this. Just let Trevor be good at what he is.
Which is talking on the mic.
No, not at all.
But yeah, so this rivalry stemmed from Jean-Pierre Lafitte stealing Bret Hart's jacket. It's actually isn't a bad matchup.
No. PCO can go as he still goes today.
This is a young PCO too, as well. So, also another big rivalry going into this show as well was Razor Ramon and one Dean Douglas.
This is the match I ended on tonight before we got on here.
It's a good match.
It's a good fucking match.
Yeah.
If they had allowed Shane Douglas to do a more kid version of the franchise, and he didn't have the issues with Shawn Michaels and the Click backstage.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shane Douglas during the New Age generation would have been phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too, man. Like the gimmick was great. Like I hated the talk. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
And putting him in fucking Bob Backlund of all people,
It's kind of
gold.
weird. Yeah, it was weird because that
It's
was kind of a short-lived thing too, but it was
yeah,
interesting.
it was good because Bob
Yeah.
Backlund is doing the whole insulting the fans with the big words.
Oh yes.
That
Yeah.
promo he cut before the match was wild. It was like,
You know,
why are you using these giant ass words, my dude?
you know what the thing is like Douglas didn't even really need a mouthpiece, but I mean
No.
it was kind of interesting to see.
Yeah.
Unexpected. We also
Troy
had
can talk. Troy can really talk.
yeah, Douglas. Oh yeah, one of the better promos. Like doesn't get nearly enough credit for what all Shane Douglas has done throughout his career, in my opinion.
No,
There's a lot of people hate on, but he's a franchise. He's always going to be
I
the
love
franchise.
Shane.
Yeah, me too. I'm right there with you, buddy. On the undercard on this show, we had the British Bulldog go up against Bam Bam Bigelow and defeated him. Psycho Sid was in action against Henry O. Godwin. And your opener was a fun one because it was Savio Vega in one of the best gimmicks that should have fucking lasted longer, but it did not for whatever reason. Lives are going to be in Waylon Mercy's hands. Yeah, Waylon Mercy's pay-per-view debut.
We can thank the Waylon Mercy gimmick though for Bray.
Absolutely. There's so much Waylon Mercy sprinkled in Bray's first run. So much. And Bray would have been the first one to tell you that too.
Yeah, when Bray did the cult gimmick, fucking it was Waylon all the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to me how Waylon Mercy didn't get more over with crowds because I mean it was it was just
Dan Spivey was a dick, I hear.
that could be said, but the gimmick was fascinating nonetheless.
But I think that's why it didn't work and why it didn't last long.
Okay.
I think he was over with the fans.
I think so too. I think we're fascinated enough with them because they're just like, oh,
Yeah.
what is this? So
I just think there were situations backstage.
yes. Let's talk about the fourth incarnation of In Your House as we go a couple months later, and this time they are in Vancouver, BC for this one, the Great White North, as it was dubbed. Or I'm sorry, not Vancouver. They were in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
I was gonna say
home 2-1 Kenny by God Omega, and yes, Chris Jericho too. Now the big thing going into this one, well, there's a couple things of note. Like probably the coolest thing coming out of this show is you got the on-screen pay-per-view first time on WWF television debut of one Gold Dust. Because at this point we got all these weird vignettes and stuff. We're like, who is this guy? And then just the entrance and everything, the aura of Goldust is just like you're like, whoa, this is different.
It's his opponent that's hilarious to me.
Marty Jannetty. Yes.
Just
Marty
out of
Jannetty.
nowhere in 1995, Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll bring him back. Yeah, I remember when they did that too, because I think one of the first things he did at that time frame, he was like on in a battle royal on Monday Night Raw. It was like the winner got an Intercontinental title shot, and it was like down to him and Owen Hart. And I was like, oh shit, Marty's gonna win, but reasons.
That was a because around that time he started teaming with Al.
Yeah, about like less than a year later, really. Yeah, the early onset of '96. Yeah, then you get the new Rockers, which oh god, yeah, which that's a fun time too. You guys will get to go through on Queen's Court, like get to see Al Snow and the different gimmicks.
We're getting into '95.
Cannot wait for you to see what was he? He was Avatar, right?
Yeah, he was Avatar.
Avatar. Oh, Avatar. What a good time. But that was the debut of Goldust, as well as This is the infamous pay-per-view where Shawn Michaels relinquished the Intercontinental Championship at the time. They didn't really go into detail, but the reality of the situation is he got his ass handed to him in a bar fight by like 12 dudes or whatever because they
Yeah,
wanted to
'cause he
beat
was
his
talking
punk ass
shit.
because he's talking shit. Imagine that. And he looked like shit too. You could just be like, oh my God. Now, so what they ended up doing is, so originally Shawn was supposed to defend that title against Dean Douglas.
Yep.
However, they ended up, Shawn forfeited it, and thus Dean Douglas would become the Intercontinental Champion. But it would be
And
one of the
then
shortest reigns because he would drop the belt later on against Razor Ramon. And Razor Ramon would make history at the time, and I believe that was his 4th Intercontinental Championship he won,
it was.
which was a
And it
record.
happened because Sean, the Click, didn't think much of Dean Douglas
Yeah,
and didn't
absolutely.
think he was gonna be a good IC champion.
Yeah,
Because this
yeah.
was like his last appearance, and he went back to Philly.
Mm-hmm. Now, also on this show, we got you got to talk about the opener here because it's kind of interesting. You get Fatu, aka Rikishi, going up against the man who's running things now, good old Papa H. Yes, Hunter Hearst Helmsley against Fatu.
That was part two.
From the streets. He
Yeah,
wants
I
to
was
make
gonna say
things
he was the positive streets guy
positive streets. Yeah, yeah.
with the Jerry curl and the puffy jacket. Yeah,
With all the colors and stuff. Yeah. Also the
and that
tag
was
titles were on the line too earlier in the night with the Smoking Guns defending against 123 Kid and Razor. So Razor got 2 title shots on this show.
yeah.
Uh,
This was the beginning of the end of that tag team.
yes, because eventually here shortly 123 Kid would turn heel and turn on Razor. Now this match on paper, like you could say like, oh okay, this is going to be a spectacle. Talk about the definition of big meaty men slapping meat. King Mabel against Yokozuna.
Oh yeah,
That is a lot of girth. That is a lot of girth. My God, like they had to reinforce that damn ring for that. Over 1,000 pounds in that ring. Big man. And then the main event, of course, British Bulldog challenging Big Daddy Cool Diesel for the WWF Championship. Which actually isn't a bad matchup. It was cool too to see Bulldog getting a title shot and getting like
yeah.
pushed in the main event scene.
I honestly always thought he deserved doing.
Yep. And then Bulldog would actually win the match, but would win by DQ because Bret Hart would be involved because the buildup pretty much was essentially the winner of this would go on to face Bret at Survivor Series. As we all know, that would end up being Diesel against Bret. But interestingly enough, it would go back to In Your House 5, where Bulldog would get his rematch. And thus, you have the creation of the rematch from SummerSlam 92 with Bret Hart defending the WWF title against British Bulldog. And Mike, this is another one I would consider is definitely a hidden gem matchup with the Bulldog against Bret from this In Your House.
Yes,
Because this is a phenomenal match. Some could even argue this match may be slightly better than the Wembley Stadium match.
yeah.
It's good, and it's a bloodbath too. I mean, Bret bleeds buckets in this one too, which
I think that's the most shocking part
yeah,
because it was rare when Bret bled.
yeah, and bleeding in the WWF at that time frame you didn't see that a whole lot. So
that too.
But this was a tremendous matchup. Do yourself a favor, go back on Peacock or wherever and watch this matchup because it's another hidden gem matchup. Also on this show, the other thing I think it's a big notoriety, the first ever Arkansas hog pen matchup with one Henry O. Godwin and Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
And WWF legend Hillbilly Jim
as the referee, yeah. Yeah. You know what, dude? I remember watching this back in the day and like being like pretty enamored with it. I could still. I mean, it's been a minute. I was gonna try to watch it before we did this, but I just didn't have time. But I may watch it afterwards, honestly. But this is actually a good matchup.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So pretty much the premise is you have to win the matchup. You have to put your opponent in the hog pen,
Yeah.
essentially.
And this, for people who do watch this and don't know, this is Triple H, like, prim proper from Connecticut with the long hair and
Yes, the aristocrat, if you
yeah,
will.
against the redneck from Arkansas.
Yeah, and like, you know what's interesting too? You look back at the history of like Triple H in the WWF. This was kind of his first real big rivalry was with Henry Goblin of all
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
He
had
would do
great
this and then
matches.
that weird give with Goldust or Piper.
Oh yeah, the Hollywood Backlot Brawl later
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and this is weird too because this is a time frame when you kind of start to see WWF experimenting with these weird like it's almost gimmick. You could even
Theatrical
say
matches.
theatrical matches. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's a good matchup too, and it's crazy too. I'll still remember when like Hunter got whipped into the actual cage, which is a legit like freaking hog pen.
Yeah, and he got
Busted
bloody.
open really bad, like had a nasty. It's amazing he didn't end up getting like sick or something from
Yeah,
this.
MRSA or like
MRSA,
some infection.
Yeah, absolutely. So, another big rivalry going in this show was the Undertaker and King Mabel, because remember Mabel had crushed Undertaker's face a couple months prior to this.
Legitimately. And they turned it into
Legitimately.
a feud.
Yep.
Mark wanted to
And
kill this man.
yep, there was a lot of guys wanting to kill Mabel back in '95. But this would be a casket match. Of course, Undertaker would pick up the win there. Also, you had Owen Hart go up against Big Daddy Cool Diesel, and this was kind of Diesel getting revenge for his friend Shawn Michaels because Shawn had been taken out by Owen with the kick heard around the world, so to speak.
Can I sideswipe just for a
Yeah,
second?
yeah, go ahead.
So Best Gal Machine just sent us a post in the PW60 chat.
Okay.
Defy has a show in Vegas during WrestleMania weekend for the Collective.
Okay. Yep.
The best heel tag team in the Northwest, the Midnight Heat, will be wrestling the Rock and Rollin' Sprex.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I'll be at that show. That's dope.
Yeah. So I guess that just dropped.
Wow. Ricky and Robert. Oh, man.
Against Ricky Gibson and Eddie Pearl.
I don't know if I've seen them ever before. I've seen
man.
Ricky, but I don't think I've seen the actual full. Wow, that's going to be dope. That's a bucket list item right there for me. A stinger.
And if you haven't watched the Midnight Heat wrestle, they are phenomenal.
Yeah, that's going to be dope. Hell yeah. But yeah, In Your House 5. Had some hidden gems, had some fun matches on here.
You get the blowout match between 1, 2, 3 finally turning.
Oh yeah, because you get the 1, 2, 3 Kid and Sid going up against Marty Jannetty and Razor in a tag match, and then Ahmed Johnson's on the show in like a squash match.
45-second match against Portland's own Buddy Wendell.
Yeah, wah wah wah.
The guy who tried to be a nature boy.
Yeah, that didn't really work. Now let's fast forward a couple months later to our next In Your House, which would be In Your House 6, coming to you from Louisville, Kentucky. Now this was pretty much kind of the go home show, so to speak, before WrestleMania 12 that year. So you kind of have like a double main event, so to speak. You'd have Shawn Michaels go up against Owen Hart. And this would be like a kind of a revenge match for Shawn since Owen had took him out, right? And it would be to determine who would be the number one contender for the WWF Championship. So essentially, Shawn put his Royal Rumble title victory or his his title shot on the line against Owen. Of course, Shawn ultimately wins. Then you also get kind of like the blow off match, so to speak, between Diesel and Bret Hart, who have been feuding all year, and this time it was inside of a steel cage. Now this is infamous for the Undertaker coming up through the ring and pulling Diesel down into the depths of hell.
I
Um,
watched an interview the other day of Diesel, or Diesel was talking about this match,
yeah,
and
there was
Brett trying to like not have this happen.
with the
And
finish.
yeah, and Undertaker I guess yells at Bret Hart, yelling, "It's okay if you lose. This is gonna help me in his feud. Stop thinking about just yourself." He used prettier language, but
Oh yeah, he's still the
So I
best
guess
there
Bret
is.
Hart was not always a good guy.
But he's the best there is, was, never will be. Anyways, I had to get one in. Also, like another this was a match. It's never been done before, and I can understand why. A crybaby match.
I
Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid. So pretty much you're maybe wondering yourself, what the hell is a crybaby match? Well, essentially, Razor and the Kid, the loser of it, would have to don a diaper and a baby bottle and be powdered, if you will.
it's
It's a
not the
thing.
worst gimmick they've done.
No, it's not the worst, but it's fucking weird.
It is very strange, and Vince has weird kinks, I feel like.
Yep. Of course, Razor picking up the win there. And then another feud that was going on at the time, which this was a weird one, but it happened for a couple months. Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Duke the Dumpster Drosy. Yes, that. Duke the Dumpster Drosy. Because Hunter, the big thing was Duke, he cut Duke's hair.
Yeah.
Cut his shout out too by Duke the Dumpster Drosy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. I love Duke. Duke's good peoples.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And then of course we also had a match with Yokozuna against British Bulldog, and this was kind of like Yoko had pretty much left Camp Cornette, so
Yeah. Duke's their Yoko's like last baby face run.
Yep. Now we go to In Your House 7, and this is kind of when they started doing the taglines for the shows, because they weren't doing that before, but this was Good Friends, Better Enemies. I gotta tell you, Mike, I really like this In Your House. This is probably one of my favorite In Your Houses, in all honesty. And a lot of it has to do with the main event, because it's a great match. The main event of this show is Shawn Michaels against Diesel, and a no-holds-barred match for the WWF Championship. I would say this is another hidden gem. Go watch it. Great matchup. A lot of great work inside this one. I mean, for God's sakes, Diesel grabs freaking Mad Dog Fashawn's leg and beats the shit out of Shawn Michaels with it.
I remember watching this for the first time as a kid. I rented it from a video store, and I remember being like, "Is that not assault on?" Because I didn't know who Mad Dog Vachon was at the time. It's like he just assaulted a fan. Like, what the fuck is this?
That's his leg. He's beating him with his leg. There's another match on here I like, which a lot of people I don't think realize this actually happened, but Fader against Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
Good matchup. Of course, Fader picks up the win, and this would be the last WWF pay-per-view appearances of Razor Ramon and Diesel as they were on their way out heading to WCW.
Yeah.
Also, you had the Ultimate Warrior challenging for the Intercontinental Championship against Goldust. It's kind of a weird one. Like a Warrior back in '96 was just so out of place.
Warrior had or Goldust had his bodyguard at this time,
Which I barely remember. That it was like the
With
guy
or
in the guy in the like the theater hat and shit. Like it was.
Do you know who that is?
I feel like I should. Who was it?
His name is Mike Halleck. You best know him as Mantor.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. Yep. The late great Mike
Yes.
Halleck. Yeah. Also, the show kicked off with a tag match with Camp Cornette's Owen Hart and the British Bulldog going up against Ahmed Johnson and Jake the Snake Roberts. Of course, Owen and Bulldog would pick up the wins there. And
Another
speaking
weird
of,
random tag team.
yep, just let's do it. And
They-
then
They
oh,
threw
go
a
ahead.
lot of tag teams together in the mid '90s. Just two wrestlers. Okay,
Yeah.
let's put them in tag.
Yeah, why not? Fuck it. Also, you had the Body Donnas defend their tag team championships against the Godwins as well on this show too.
Body Donna is a great tag team that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah, really good. Shout out to Dr. Tom and the late great Chris Candido, man.
But it's definitely a tag team I don't think could happen in 2025.
Yeah. I don't think so. Remember when they got cloudy?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Now let's talk about In Your House 8, Beware of Dog. Now, this is a kind of a famous show here. Because there was some controversy with this one, but it had nothing to do with anything storyline wise. This was Mother Nature being a bitch, which I'm surprised. To my knowledge, I think this is the only time it's ever happened at a pay-per-view. I'm surprised it hadn't happened before or since. But essentially, they go on the air. It opens with a great matchup with Wild Man Mark Merrill and Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And then from there, they're supposed to go into the next matchup, which would have been Savio Vega and Stone Cold in a Caribbean strap match.
Oh yeah, the power goes out.
Power goes out. So the power goes out, and then essentially they are off the air for the majority of the pay-per-view, but miraculously they come back on the air just in time for the main event, which was Shawn Michaels and British Bulldog.
Is this pay-per-view on Peacock? I've never actually checked.
I think it is. Pretty sure it is.
I have to watch this pay-per-view because I've heard this story, but I've never actually. I don't think I've actually watched Beware of Dog.
Oh, Beware of Dog's a good show. It really is because Shawn Bulldog had some great matches, man. This was another one I would say is a hidden gem matchup. A tremendous title matchup. Now, what was interesting, what they ended up doing to make it up to the fans is they actually had later that week after Raw, I think it was on a Tuesday night, they were doing WWF Superstar tapings. And what they ended up doing from the Superstar tapings, they actually redid the 3 matches. Because that's the thing, Mike. They did the other 3 matches there, even though they weren't on the air for pay-per-view, and it was pitch black dark, they still did the matches in the arena. Which is, when you think about it, it's fucking bonkers. What? How does that even work? But the other 3 matches that was on Beware of Dog that you ended up getting on the Tuesday night show was the Caribbean strap match with Savio Vega against Stone Cold. Big matchup with Yokozuna and Vader, who had been feuding at the time. I'm sorry, my dog's got a squeaky.
That's fine.
Yeah. And
Well,
then
you want to know something?
What's that?
What threw me off was on Wikipedia, when you look at Beware of Dog, they have it in Beware of Dog and then Beware of Dog 2.
2, yeah.
And then on Beware of Dog 1, the actual pay-per-view, they have all the matches that have a D on them, and they're calling them dark matches on Wikipedia.
Yeah, and it's every literal sense of the word. It's a dark match because you couldn't see a fucking thing.
That's why I was confused and thought that was hilarious. I was like, this whole pay-per-view is dark matches. What? This makes no sense.
And then the other match they had was a casket match for the Intercontinental Championship with Goldust going up against the Undertaker.
One of the few times Taker lost a casket match.
Yeah. Which, I mean, so Beware of Dog was a loaded show. It just had the distinct, what happened to it with the power going out there. Also, too, so they did the second part there on a Tuesday night, and if you had actually bought the pay-per-view on Sunday, you got the show for free essentially on Tuesday night because it was making up for what they had. It was a wild scenario to happen there.
Yeah, no, that is crazy.
Yeah. And what they did is they actually, on the replay on Tuesday night, they actually showed the 2 matches that were telecast live on Sunday night. So There you go. So one of the more unique situations in WWF history, but it did happen, and of course, it had to happen at In Your House. Now this is the show I was thinking of. That's from Vancouver, BC, because now we're talking In Your House 9 International Incident. And the big thing going into this show was the rivalry with Camp Cornette. You had the British Bulldog, Owen Hart, and Fader, which I think was the best version of Camp Cornette, in my opinion. Going up against
The People's Posse.
which I don't even remember them calling them that. On Wikipedia, it
That's
says that. Like, I don't even remember them calling that.
Ahmed Johnson, Shawn Michaels, and Psycho Sid.
Yep.
That's
Now, what's interesting, originally this was supposed to be it wasn't supposed to be Sid. It was actually supposed to be Ultimate Warrior.
yes.
Warrior, was missing those
Dipped.
dates, and what happened, and they ended up firing his ass, essentially.
That's why I was kind of when I watched this when I was a kid. I was like, Sid's a heel. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. And then they just turned Sid a babyface because, well, Warrior's gone, so fuck it. Also, you got a tremendous rematch from the King of the Ring tournament from the semifinals with Stone Cold Steve Austin going up against Wild Man Mark Merrow. Of course, this was kind of like a little bit of revenge for Stone Cold because remember, Mark Merrow did kick his lip to where he had to go to the hospital and get the stitches, and that infamous moment, my gosh, with the King of the Ring. Oh,
yeah.
You also had this is kind of a weird one, Mankind against Henry Godwin.
It's a crazy 6-minute match. I
Yeah.
get entertained with that match very easily because early Mankind is psycho.
Oh, I love like Boiler Room Brawl. The different entrances going into it. Like Mankind was such a great character, way ahead of his time. And speaking of Mankind, the Undertaker will go one-on-one with Goldust because remember, Mankind and Undertaker was feuding at the time, of course. And then Mankind had the thing going on with Goldust where he was looking at Goldust as his mommy.
Yeah.
96 was a fun time.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
And then, of course, you had the Body Donnas going up against the Smoking Guns and getting in some revenge against the managed at the time by Sonny Smoking Guns, as the Body Donnas would pick up a win. But it was a non-title matchup. So now let's go to the next In Your House, which is this is a fun one. In Your House 10, Mind Games.
This is my favorite In Your House, just for the company that is also involved in it.
Well, let's talk about it. So this, of course, taking place in Philadelphia, and you know who was showing up when you're in Philly. That's right. ECW was in the house on this one. You had like Sandman and Tommy Dreamer and Paul Heyman
Front
sitting
row.
ringside. On the
Sandman's drunk ass is trying to start a fight with Savio.
Yep. It's interesting too because it's like there was another Caribbean strap match on this show with Savio going up against Justin Hawk Bradshaw to kick it off, and like Sandman's getting into it with him and shit. And you're just like,
yeah. And my favorite part about this is if you hear the story, security is not told about the ECW angle.
Yeah.
And they tell Sandman, hey, I wouldn't do this if I were you. And Paul and Sam would be like, no, we're doing this because we're told to. You don't do what you're supposed to do, what you think you need to do. There's a whole situation. Like, how do you not tell your security, hey, we have some dudes in the front row doing an angle?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no. We're supposed to be here. It's like, I think the line I remember Taz using is like, no, you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But the main event is so great on this show. It's Shawn Michaels defending the WWF Championship against Mankind. God, this is such a good matchup.
It is.
Nick, I think, has still to this day will tell you this is easily in his top 5 like greatest matches of all time.
Yeah, I will put it in Nick's top 5 matches. This is phenomenal.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's crazy that like they didn't work together a whole lot. Like this
Yeah.
is only the real match I can think of that they worked each other.
Yeah.
Because man, Sean and Mick, God, they had some great chemistry. And this was like Mankind's red hot too, because he's coming off of like defeating Undertaker at the Boiler Room Brawl. You know, of course, now
Yeah.
he's got Paul Bearer with him and stuff. So
He's doing stuff with Kane and
now, speaking of Mankind, and we got to talk about his rival at the time, the Undertaker. Uh, as he had a matchup once again with Goldust. This time a final curtain match, which I still don't know what the hell that is. But it was just like this was a time frame where let's just put like some goofy names on it and just like a no DQ match or something. Essentially,
yeah, that's pretty much
that's
what
more
it
or less
was.
what it was. It was a no DQ match. Um, Also, we got to talk about the in-ring debut of one Hall of Famer, Mark Henry, was on this show too,
Beating the fuck out of Jerry the King Lawler.
picking him up like he was a child.
So fucking good.
Oh yeah. And then you also had the team of Owen Hart and British Bulldog winning the tag team titles. As they defeated Billy and Bart, the Smoking Guns. But the Bulldog and Owen still in Camp Cornette, but they didn't have Cornette in their corner in this one. It ended up being
No.
the lawyer of Camp Cornette at the time, one Clarence Mason, managing Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. You remember Clarence Mason?
Yes, because Clarence Mason managed Camp Cornette. He did the Nation Bob Nation. And
Mhm.
then he would go to WCW and do the Harlem Heat 2.0. God, I hate that.
You would bring that up. But why was Jim Cornette not in the corner that night? Well, it's because, yes, Jim Cornette actually competed that night against one
Do we say this
Jose
match is a
Lothario.
competition? Do we really want to call that that? It's less than a minute.
It's kind of a shit show too.
It
Kinda
is.
yeah, but it happened. So, but yes, Mind Game's definitely most known for that infamous Mankind and Shawn Michaels match. Well, like seriously, go back and watch it. I mean, it was tremendous. So now, Mike, this next one, this one means a lot to me because this is the first professional wrestling show I ever watched in person. Was this show?
Oh yeah, this
Yeah.
was an indie.
This was it. In Your House 11, Buried Alive.
Yeah, Market Square where the Pacers played.
I was 10 years old going to Market Square Arena. I remember my dad surprised the shit out of me because we didn't do a whole lot of events, you know. Like we'd go to a Pacer game here and there, you know, but he through his work was able to score 4 tickets for this thing. So it was just like, holy shit, yeah, this is awesome, you know. And then it was my first big show going to, and of course I remember it was like a bidding war amongst my friends as far as what 2 friends were gonna go with me and stuff. That was the king shit back then, man. Speaking of king, so here's a funny story for you. Literally before this show, I was adamant we have to go to Burger King so I could get a crown. And that way I could put it on and wear it, like be yelling at Jerry Lawler. Which, by the way, I have some throwaway disposable camera with me. I have photos of this In Your House. I gotta find them. I know they're somewhere stashed away here, like with my parents. Like whenever I find these photos, I'm gonna share them online with y'all because it's just wild, man. Like because we had perfect seats for this show because it was like we were kind of like. We were right in front essentially of like the actual grave site, but you could see the ring perfectly as well. So it was pretty dope. So being this, it's just wild to me that the very first show I ever saw as a kid, and I was lucky, man, that it was this show. Because it's such a fun
It's
show.
a loaded card.
Oh yeah. Well, first off, you get your opener, because it's the first time it ever happened, which is crazy to think. But you get Hunter Hearst Helmsley against Stone Cold Steve Austin's your opening matchup.
That is an opener is wild to say.
Yes. And it's actually a good matchup too. But it's just weird because they're both working heel at the time. So because originally what was supposed to be Savio Vega against Stone Cold, but Savio got hurt, so they put
Yes.
Hunter in that spot because Hunter at the time was about to challenge for the Intercontinental title because he was gonna, or no, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Hunter was actually supposed to wrestle Mr. Perfect the next night on Monday Night Raw because there was like that big storyline going on, and of course, ultimately would lead to Hunter getting an Intercontinental title shot, winning the IC title the next night. But yes, that was your opener, and then of course you ended up having the rematch for the tag team championships with from last month with Owen and Bulldog successfully defending against the Smoking Guns. I remember too at this point it was like the Smoking Guns was just like a shell of themselves essentially.
Yeah. I was gonna say this was
and
at
and,
the end
and
of Bart's.
yeah, because then they would end up breaking up literally a month later, essentially. So, now originally on the show it was supposed to be Mark Merrow defending the Intercontinental Championship against Farouk, but Farouk actually got hurt, so they had to
I
pull him off
remember
the
there
show.
being a lot of injuries going
Yeah,
into this pay-per-view.
yeah, there was a lot. So ultimately, Farouk was replaced by Goldust. So it was Goldust and Mark Merrow for the IC title. Of course, Mark Merrow retaining. And then there was a number one contenders match for the WWF title at Survivor Series. So it was Sid against Fader. Of course, Sid would go on to win and thus defeat Shawn at Madison Square Garden. But that main event, that big main event, The Undertaker and Mankind in a buried alive matchup. We didn't know what the hell buried alive matchup was. But yes, it's exactly as it sounded, folks. It was you put them in the grave and you bury them alive. I would safely say too, and maybe I'm biased because I was there. I think this is like the best buried alive match there is.
Yeah,
It's-
probably.
I mean, Austin and Taker was good, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I think this was my favorite buried alive match, but for obvious reasons. But I remember, dude, as a kid being there, and then Taker wins it, but then you get all the heels come out and beating the fuck out of Taker. And then they throw him in the grave and they're digging and stuff. And then I can remember the lights going out Market Square and then lightning striking and hitting the fucking grave and Undertaker's hand sticking up. As a kid, you're just like, oh my God.
Taker always had a thing where he was in matches where groups of heels would ended up attacking him.
Yeah, yeah.
It
It's like,
happened quite
fuck.
often in the mid
Like,
'90s.
come on, man. Come on.
Between the Buried Alive match, the casket match with Yoko in
Yep.
'94, like he got ganged up on a lot during this era.
Yeah, he did. But we go a couple months later here to the last In Your House in 1996, In Your House 12, and this one was dubbed as It's Time. At this point, Psycho Sid is the champion now, and he would defend his WWF Championship against one Bret the Hitman Hart, because Bret had just recently returned at Survivor Series. Now Sid will go on to defeat Bret Hart and retain his championship. This In Your House is kind of honestly, you could skip it. Not a whole lot happens on this other than this weird ass match, the Armageddon Rules match with the Undertaker going against the Executioner. Now I know you remember who the Executioner was.
Yes, and I
He,
hate that this legend got stuck with this gimmick.
the late great Terry
Bam
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 Gordy.
Gordy.
Like the Ultimate Violence Connection, like the Freebirds, and he gets stuck as the Executioner.
As a guy in a mask who's the Executioner for Mankind and Paul Bear. Shit happens, I guess.
I mean, a paycheck's a paycheck.
Paycheck is a paycheck, brother. So you got to do what you got to do. Michael, they came to me and they said, put on a mask. So I had to do it, Michael. But let's talk about it. The card you run it. Like I say, this is a very forgetful card for obvious reasons. You had Mark Merrow and Triple H for the IC title. Owen Hart and British Bulldog against Fake Razor and Diesel for the tag titles.
I
Flash
ain't gonna
Funk.
lie. Fucking Flash Punk and fucking Al Snow are a great match, though. That's a good match.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree.
But no, the rest of this card is
Dog shit.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely you can definitely say that. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, what we've talked about so far, there's some good ones, but man, there's some bad ones too in here, and this is definitely on the bad side of things, I would say, because we've mostly had some home runs here for these in your
Yeah.
houses. I
I ain't
think.
gonna lie, the in-house pay-per-view is rarely missed.
Yeah. It just so happened you got a couple every now and then where, well, they suck ass. Now we talk about the next one, In Your House 13, Final Four. I think this is another one, dude, that's got another great, and I think that's a reoccurring theme we've been talking about. There's a lot of great hidden gem matches,
Yeah.
and this
This
main
has
event.
two, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, are you talking about the IC or the tag?
No, the
Oh.
tag.
Okay. That's a good one too, but
I've talked very highly about Doug Furnace and Phil LaFon.
great tag team. Should have been tag champions.
Yes. I have yeah, I've talked very highly of how much I love their work, especially their stuff in Japan.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Doug Furnace, I still think to this day has one of the best drop kicks of all time.
Yes.
Great worker. But we got Doug Furnace and Phil Plafond. They did challenge Owen and the Bulldog for the tag titles, but the main event is incredible. It's Bret Hart
Yes.
against Stone Cold Steve Austin against Vader against The Undertaker in a they were doubling a Final Four match, a four corners elimination match for the vacant WWF Championship. Because remember, Shawn lost his smile, so he had to give up the belt because he lost his smile.
God.
I couldn't resist. So what's interesting about this is all stemming from the 97 Royal Rumble, because it was a controversial because Stone Cold won that match, but Stone Cold technically had already been eliminated by Bret Hart.
Genius.
So the refs didn't see it. Stone Cold gets back in the ring. He dumps Vader and Undertaker out, and then he dumped Bret Hart out to win the thing. So thus, that's how we get to this matchup. Now, originally, this was supposed to be to determine who would be the number one contender at WrestleMania. However, like I say, Shawn lost his smile, and thus they made it for the WWF Championship. Like I say, it's another great matchup. Vader bleeds buckets in this one too, man. Like, it's a bloody affair. And ultimately, of course, you get Bret the Hitman Hart would win the championship, only to drop it the next night to Sid. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And you wonder why Bret Hart went ape shit. I'm just saying. You brought him back and you did that. Come on. Dude.
Looking back at it, there's a lot of reasons, and I don't blame Bret for leaving by the end of the year.
Yeah. We missed the Intercontinental title. It was up for grabs as well with Rocky Maivia, a young Rocky Maivia, aka The Rock, defending against Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I will say that their feud for the IC title is better than any of their matches afterwards.
Even when you go into 98, you think?
Well, that's still for the IC title.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Like,
right.
I'm just saying that young Triple H, young Rock IC title feud.
Oh yeah, that was the
better
best.
than when they
for the
hit
WWF title. I think that I agree with that. Them as like the mid card trying to break through to the main event scene. Yeah, I agree with that. And then, like I say, some of these matches you could have seen on Superstars, for God's sakes. Mark Merrill against Leaf Cassidy. The Nation
of Al Snow. He's yoked now. He will hurt you.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But and then you got the Nation of Domination against this thrown together half-assed team of Bart Gunn, Flash Funk, and Goldust.
They were just trying to find stuff for Too Cold Scorpio to do, and same with Bart.
I guess.
My favorite is just the members of the Nation of Domination.
Yes.
Because it's Crush and Farouk and Savio, which, great. And then you have JC and Wolfie D out there.
Yep. Wrapping them to the ring. I love the original interpretation of Nation of Domination, man. I thought they was great.
Having a pro African faction with 3 white boys is
Yeah.
hilarious.
That's a little wild. So now we're talking In Your House 14. We've got the Revenge of the Taker, as it was called, and like, I gotta be honest, dude. I think this is kind of another one where it's kind of a throwaway show. It's just like there's some stuff happens, but nothing like really sticks out.
Yeah, no, this is
You kind of try to pick up back again with an Undertaker Mankind feud as they meet for the WWF title. Because this is
my issue
Undertaker's.
with this is the Undertaker in this era because he wears that weird ass cowboy hat.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I was like, okay, what are we doing here? But I'm not gonna say anything. You're the Undertaker, shit. But we got that for the WWF Championship. Of course, you have a number 1 contenders match for the WWF title with Stone Cold defeating Bret Hart. And this is like the height too. This is like right when Stone Cold's red hot, as like everybody loves Stone Cold. At this point, Stone Cold is slowly becoming the face of the WWF. He's like anti-established, the anti-hero, if you will. Also, you get Jesse James and Rockabilly because they had a feud
before Billy Gunn turns on Honky Tonk Man like 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
and they become the New Age Outlaws. I legit forget sometimes that Billy Gunn was called Rockabilly.
Oh God, Rockabilly. Yeah, because it was like a story. I remember watching WWE at the time, and it was weeks building up, like who's gonna be the Honky Tonk Man's like apprentice or whatever, and it's just like, who gives a shit? It's a fucking Honky Tonk Man.
Honky Tonk Man needed the paycheck.
Yeah, cousin Honky needed that paycheck. Jerry, help your cousin out. And then we did have some title matches on the show. You had Owen and the Bulldog defend the tag titles against Legion of Doom, who had just returned a couple months prior. LOD would pick up the win, but it would be by DQ. And then you have Savio Vega against Rocky Maifia for the Intercontinental Championship.
And that was like right after Rocky left the Nation?
No, this was before. This is at the height of like die Rocky die, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it was.
This was like the white meat baby face. Hi, Clay. This was the white meat baby face Rocky Maifia.
Oh, this is before he joined the Nation.
Yeah, and this is when everybody's like, I'm tired of him being shoved down our throats. Fuck him. And you get that essentially. So now we go a month later to In Your House 15, which would be dubbed a cold day in hell. Now this would be remembered mainly for this was Stone Cold Steve Austin's first WWF Championship matchup on pay-per-view. As he would challenge the Undertaker, and it was weird too because it was like this was kind of a fun era because in a unique era in a sense of like this is when we start blurring the lines between your traditional babyface and heel because it's just like
situation.
Yeah, you get in a tweener situation here, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, let's I guess we're doing this, but it made sense because I mean these were the top 2 guys at the time, you know. So, and it was that's actually not a pretty decent match. Of course, Undertaker would go on to retain the championship for obvious, you know. But I would say this pay-per-view is most known for the in-ring WWF debut of Ken Shamrock.
Yes.
As he would go up against Big Fan Vader in a no-holds-barred match, and this is a fun one. These guys beat the shit out of each other.
I love Ken Shamrock in the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you didn't know if Ken didn't realize he wasn't in the UFC anymore.
Yeah. No kidding, right? He's just like, it's bare knuckle shuffle time and just fucking everybody up, man. But that was probably the best match on the show, I'd say. It's a really good one, a really solid one. Also, You've got the rivalry coming to kind of a crescendo, if you will, of the Nation of Domination against Ahmed Johnson, because they've been feuding, for the past year more or less. So now you have a gauntlet match for Ahmed Johnson, where he goes up against Crush, Savio Vega, and Farouk. Ultimately, Ahmed would defeat Crush and Savio, but he couldn't quite beat Farouk, and thus the Nation would win the war. Now, interesting enough, too, Farouk would get a title shot for the WWF Championship next month at the King of the Ring because of the win in this matchup.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
this is one of the matches Farouk talks about that like Ahmed wasn't listening, and like people wanted to kick his ass backstage.
I believe that.
Nation hated that man. Well, the whole roster did, but god damn it, you hear about how D'Lo and Farouk actually can't wanted to kill Ahmed Johnson. It is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, Ahmed did not have any love, and rightfully so, in all honesty. And then once again, you kind of have these weird filler matches: Triple H against Flash Funk, Mankind against Rocky Maivia. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
And
Which I mean, it's funny because at that time, I know at home you're thinking like, well, what the fuck do you mean? That's like The Rock against Mankind, but this time frame though, it's weird because
strange.
it's just like, what are we doing? And Mankind would defeat The Rock or Rocky Maivia. And like I say, it was just this was that time frame when we were really blurring the lines between what was a traditional heel and what was a babyface. Now, Mike, this next one's probably one of my favorite In Your Houses, mainly for the main event. We're talking In Your House 16 Canadian Stampede.
Oh,
Love
one
this.
of my favorite matches of all time is on this card, but it's not the main event.
I'm guessing you're there. This is a solid show, and there's actually on the pay-per-view itself. There's only 4 matches on the actual broadcast itself.
Yeah.
But they're all solid matches. But that the main event's what it was everybody's there for, because this was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So as you can only imagine, the Hart Foundation was cheered out of the building because it was Bret the Hart family coming home. Of course, this is the height of that the Canada versus US rivalry as well, with the Hart Foundation. So, and this is that time frame once again where the lines are blurred with heel and babyface, because it's interesting because you have Bret and the Hart Foundation, who are literally heels everywhere else, but get them
But
in
babyface
Canada.
is fuck in Canada.
Yes. So of course we got Bret, Owen, Bulldog, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Brian Pillman all teaming up on a team, are all a part of the Hart Foundation, and they would go up against the, I guess you could call them the American contingent.
Yeah.
But you had Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Ken Shamrock, the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, and Goldust on a tag team to go up against. Like I say, this is actually a fun 10-man tag too. The crowd's what makes this though.
Yeah, the crowd is hot.
Oh, the crowd's so fucking good during this. But a solid main event, and like also like a great story being told with Owen Hart picking up the win for his team as he rolled up Stone Cold, and they would start off with their famous rivalry. But that main event though, oh, chef's kiss, it's so good. But I got a feeling, I think I know what your favorite match on this show is, and I think it had a lot of international flair to it, did it not?
It did.
Let's talk about it.
The great Sasuke and Taka Michinoku doing some crazy high flying and Japanese in ring work for 10 minutes on a weird WWF pay per view in the middle of 97. Like things that had not been seen before in the company.
Yep.
Fucking phenomenal.
Oh yeah. They were and this was
But
kind of that time when they're trying to reintroduce the light heavyweight division too
yeah,
into the WWF as well. So it's like they showcase these two guys, and at this point too, I think this is Taka's first WWF match
it
too
was. And I
for
think it
both
was
of these guys. Yeah.
it was. And they were doing stuff in Michinoku Pro at this time. Taka had just came off of the ECW pay per view.
Yep, barely legal. Yep.
Well, actually, both of them. I think the story that I heard is they got this pay-per-view match because of the great shit that happened in that opening match in Barely Legal. Because they were both part of that 6-man tag.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great. That was a great matchup on Barely Legal. Oh my god, so good. Now the other matches you had on the show, you had the, of course, you got to have the WWF title defended. But we've got the Undertaker going up against Vader. Now what's interesting about this one, it's actually that wasn't supposed to be Vader. This was actually supposed to be Ahmed Johnson against the Undertaker originally. Because Ahmed had just kind of turned heel and joined the Up with the Nation, which was fucking weird because they was. But hey,
Just feuding. Yeah, no,
WWF in '97, so reasons.
Heated that whole situation.
Yeah. And then the other match on this show, you had Hunter Hearst Helmsley go up against Mankind, who those guys were feuding at the time, coming out of the '97 King of the Ring finals. I just remember this too because the match did end in a double countout, but like I just remember them beating the hell out of each other in the back, and then like going around like the barn stalls and stuff and beating the shit out of each other. It was awesome, so good.
Those two always beat the fuck out of each other.
Oh yeah, like, Mick and Hunter, hell yeah, dude. Now,
so now looking back at it, this next In Your House has a crazy name.
yeah. Well, here's the thing that this In Your House would be kind of kicking off in this next year. At this point, they've all been 2 hours, but now this was the first In Your House that went to a full 3-hour format show. And we are talking about In Your House Ground Zero.
It's a wild name.
Yeah.
With everything that happened and what a certain place is now called, this is a crazy name.
But this was long before those tragic events took place, though. We'll say that. But this one coming to you from Louisville, Kentucky. So we got another In Your House taking place in Louisville.
A lot of WWF pay-per-views happen in Louisville.
Yeah. Like, you have a couple over a lot more than you think.
For a place like Kentucky.
Hey now, you Washingtonian, you watch your mouth there, sir. Beautiful Kentucky, beautiful Louisville, home of the Colonel Sanders. And
have you been to Kentucky?
Dude, I live right by it. I go there all the time.
Oh yeah, I forgot Indiana's right next to Kentucky.
Yeah, they're literally like it's right below me. I'm like less than an hour away.
Oh yeah, you've been there for like OVW shows.
Oh, I've been there for a ton of shows. Yeah, I've seen, dude. I think I've seen about every company. I've seen TNA there. I've seen WWE. I've seen AEW there. OVW. Yeah, I've been there a lot. Don't disparage the great city of Louisville, sir.
I always forget that.
Now this show, I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on this show, man. Like, it's not like, I don't know. There's some important things, I guess, that happen on this show, but it's not like, I don't know. In the grand scheme of things, it's not like.
It's never been an In Your House I've ever gone back to.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. So,
God dang it, Gout.
What?
Oh, what about the first comment we get is that?
He was recircumcised and, as he would say, Louisville. It's actually Louisville.
That is. Yeah. Wow, we haven't had a comment all night, and that's the first thing I.
Yep. Thanks, BGM. But no, so this show, I don't know. Like I say, there's not a whole lot that happens, but if you look in the next couple of months in the WWF at this time frame, there's stuff setting up now. Now, first off, we do got to mention this is, and it's unfortunate, but this would be the last pay-per-view match of Brian Pillman, as he would go up against Goldust. And now the stipulation for this was if Pillman won, he would get Marlena for 30 days. And if Goldust had won, Pillman would have had to leave the WWF. But obviously Brian won, and TV was weird. TV was weird for Brian Pillman, and it's sad too because that would be his last TV because he would pass away going into the next show, where they were scheduled to meet. Actually, ironically enough, and then you have Brian Christopher against Scott Putski. That happened. But I just remember, I tell you what I remember most about that, Mike, is like how the ending of that was, because like they legit like had to like call an audible with Scott Putski because he actually got hurt during the match, so they had to like end the match short. I think he broke his leg or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like they were introducing Scott Putski as like he was going to be one of the next top baby faces in the lightweight division, but it just
because of who his dad was and the history of his dad
great
and Madison
Ivan
started.
Putski. Yes.
Yeah.
You had Savio Vega would defeat Farouk and Crush in a triple threat match, and at the time this was kind of being built up as like the three factions in the WWF. You had the Los
Gang Warfare was so great.
Gang Warfare, yeah. Los
I love Gang
Boricuas,
Warfare.
Disciples of Apocalypse, and of course the Nation. So, which is
Los
weird because
Boricuas.
I would have thought Farouk would have won this, for the Nation, but no, Savio representing Los Boricuas getting a big.
They were trying to build up Los Boricuas.
Yeah,
like strong for a while.
Oh yeah.
I think the only faction they didn't really give a fuck about was the racist motorcycle gang.
The DOA, brother. You also had a what is the politically correct term here?
Little people?
Little person match?
Yeah. Max Mini and El Torito?
Max Mini and El Torito. Of course, at the time, Max Mini billed as the world's smallest luchador. I think Microman now holds that distinction, but yeah, that match happened.
Max Mini for a while also was known as Mini Rey Mysterio Jr.
Was he really? I don't even remember that. Huh.
Yeah. Well, that was in Mexico.
Okay. Okay.
And for AAA.
Now, I think one of the highlight for me on this show is the Headbangers winning the tag titles. Because that came out of nowhere because they ended up doing a four-way match. Because originally it was supposed to be Austin and Mankind, but Austin was hurt at the time. So Headbangers would replace them, and they would defeat the Goblins, the Legion of Doom, and Owen Hart and the British Bulldog for the, at the time, Fankin Tag Team Championship. I was a huge Headbangers fan. I love the Headbangers.
I love the Headbangers. I'm going to try to buy their new action figures.
Oh yeah, those look sick. Yeah, that they're getting some Mattel ones. I didn't know that.
Yeah, nice. No, they have a Legends deal.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and then for the WWF Championship, we got Bret Hart successfully defended against the Patriot. What a weird time. Like they bring no disrespect against the late Del Wilkes, but they bring him in to kind of feud with Bret Hart because it's like, okay, I guess we need an American person, so let's put the dude who wore the American flag mask and was partners with Marcus Bagwell in WCW.
They put him in a few pay-per-view matches in this U.S. versus Canada feud. It's just like it's one of those what's it called? One of these things doesn't look like the others.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like really, you have all these great main eventers, and then the Patriot.
Yep, then the Patriot, and then we also had the main event was Shawn Michaels against the Undertaker, which ended in a no contest, and that would lead into next month's In Your House, which is maybe the most famous In Your House of them all. It's the one you were talking about earlier, my friend. Let's talk about Bad Blood in Your House. Because this is the moment, folks. This is where we get the birth of one of the most infamous I can't speak matches in WWF history. It's the Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell. Because at the time, we didn't know really what to expect. I can remember watching on TV, and it was like the build up for like, oh, the cage is being built, all this other crazy shit stuff, and then like it's huge and I mean, Hell in a Cell was a brutal matchup. It was a bloody affair. Like the moment where Sean goes through the table, it was just like, oh my god, this match is insane. And then like just the brutality of it, and then you get to the finish, and you get to the famous the debut
It's
of
gotta
Kane.
be
Gotta be
Kane.
Kane. Oh man, so good, so good. Um, absolutely love this In Your House just for that. The rest, I don't even give a shit about the rest of the card. Honestly, it's like everything else is chopped liver in comparison. I mean, the one sad thing though is the fact that originally Brian Pillman was supposed to be on this show, and obviously wasn't because he passed away. In fact, I think they literally had found his body that day because
Yeah,
they announced it, and it was
they
just
announced it during this pay per view,
yeah, absolutely.
right?
Phew.
I think like right after the first match.
Yeah, I think so. But if you look at this show, the rest of it, it's just like it is really complete dog shit. Like it's like you get the DOA against Los Boricuas, you got Owen Hart against Farouk for the IC title.
The
The
Godwins versus.
Goblins beat the Headbangers for the tag titles.
I forgot the Godwins were in the company that long.
Yeah, and this is like the heel Goblins too.
Yeah,
You
with
do have
Uncle
another,
Cletus.
yeah, you do have another little person's a tag match. You got the Nation Domination against LOD to kick the
Minis.
show off. You got the Minis. Yeah. Oh, and did we mention the flag match with Brett and Bulldog against the Patriot and Vader? That happened too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. But now it's interesting to me, Mike, because we go from that to this next In Your House a couple months later. And really, if you look at the landscape of the WWF has changed drastically because now we're talking about In Your House Degeneration X. Because
Yes.
at this point, it's like DX is the top faction. Like DX is red hot. You know, Brett's obviously gone out of the WWF. Heart Foundation is no more. And you get this was like one of the few where it was like the pay-per-view was pretty much named after the wrestlers or the faction,
Yeah.
with DX being the name. So of course in the main event you had Shawn Michaels defending the WWF title against one Ken Shamrock. Not a bad match actually. Pretty
No.
solid matchup. Yeah.
I honestly one of probably my best Ken Shamrock
Yeah.
WF
Yeah.
matches. Between that and the match he had with Owen in the dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a solid matchup. Of course, Shawn Michaels would still retain,
Of
but
course.
what I remember though, the end of this, where out of the blue, the Black Heart himself, Owen Hart, shows up and beats the shit out of Shawn Michaels. Because this is right after the freaking Montreal screw job,
Yeah.
And I'll never forget too, like when when Owen jumped him, like how hard he shoved him like into the announce table too. It's like, damn. Like you could just tell like this was like Owen was like getting some revenge for Brett, man.
Yeah, this is some real life shit. Where
Yeah.
they very much blurred the lines.
Oh yeah, 100%, bro. 100%. You had a couple weird gimmick matches on this one though too. I mean, it is the DX name, so of course we're gonna have Triple H in action as well. But he
Yeah, but it's
competed
against Sergeant Slaughter.
in a
That's
boot
hilarious.
camp match. Okay. It's like, I mean, at the time they were feuding with Commissioner Slaughter, and they did the whole like ripping on him and stuff, and then finally Slaughter's like had enough and put him in this boot camp match with them. But
Remember when they had the shield
still
masks,
with the yeah,
the window wipers?
mm-hmm, yeah,
God, so good.
it was. um, Also, you had a tough man match or a boxing match, more or less, on this show with Butterbean going up against Mark Marrow.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't remember that.
I barely remember it, but I was just like, okay.
The only time I ever remember Mark Mira or Butterbean was him beating up Bart Gunn at Media. I forgot he did other stuff in the company.
Yeah. Also, speaking of weird, this is the only time you ever heard this on any type of pay-per-view with wrestling ever. Jeff Jarrett defeats The Undertaker. Yes,
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett. And this is a weird Jeff Jarrett too. This is like freshly back from WCW. He's trying to be edgy, but nobody really gives a shit. Okay, we put him with Jim Cornette in the NWA, and it's just like,
Yeah.
uh,
It's during that weird like NWA storyline.
God,
But
that's
it's like
yeah.
And it's like right before he teams up with Owen,
Mm-hmm.
which is
That was
like
a great
my
tag team.
favorite Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, I agree with you on that one. Yeah. Yep. And then some other matches. You had the New Age Outlaws against the Legion of Doom for the tag titles. And we had once again another Disciples of Apocalypse, Los Boricuas matchup. Another interesting note on this show. This is the first ever pay-per-view meeting between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock.
Yeah.
As they would meet for the Intercontinental Championship. So but DX actually not a bad show. Oh, also I think the
inaugural light heavyweight
the
championship.
finals of the light heavyweight championship was on this show too.
Taka Michinoku defeating Brian Christopher.
On Brian Christopher.
What I love about that match is Jerry the King Lawler
commentary.
On commentary,
yes,
like, kissing Brian Christopher's ass, but they can't say who Brian Christopher is,
right? Yeah,
out because internet wasn't really a thing still. So, like it's so great.
Yeah, it's like we know, but we don't. All right, and now we get to 1998. The first In Your House of 1998 is none other than the very first ever No Way Out.
This is my favorite poster.
Oh, with Kane on it? Yeah.
Yes. And it's not even just No Way Out. It's No Way Out of Texas.
Yes, because this did take place in Texas. I got to tell you, this show is riddled with tag matches.
Yeah.
Like it's practically all nothing but tag matches.
There's literally three. 3 out of 7 matches are singles matches.
Yeah. Now the main event on this show was Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was just a weird team. Stone Cold, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, and Chainsaw Charlie, aka Terry.
This is a crazy match.
And they would go up in a non-sanctioned match against Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the New Age Outlaws, and it was supposed to be Shawn Michaels, but Shawn, nursing the back injury, couldn't work. His replacement was Savio Vega. Okay. I guess we got nobody else, but all right, fuck it.
But it's a great
matchup. I love Savio. I mean, that is no disrespect to Savio.
I was like, be nice to TNT.
Yeah, I love Savio. Of course, the babyface teams would get the win. I still don't know what the hell that War of Attrition match. What? Okay. It's the Nation of Domination going against the Disciples of Apocalypse and Ken Shamrock and Ahmed Johnson, who's now a babyface again against the Nation at this point. I don't fucking know. Yeah. Like why does he still have a job at this point? Yeah. Man, like I said, we had some tag matches. Your opener is a weird one. The Headbangers against the Goldust and Mark Henry. I'm sorry, the artist formerly known as Goldust at the time. Yeah, because the thing is with this one, it was like they were the back and forth with Mero and Goldust, because ultimately they would meet in a mixed tag at Mania that year. You also have the Goblins against, the Quebecers, who was back in the WWF for a short period of time this time frame.
Like, it was super short. It was weird.
Short. But yes, PCO added again.
It was like right after they came back from WCW as the French Canadians.
Yeah. And then
which
they're
was
like,
the same exact gimmick.
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I tell you what, they did have a fun light heavyweight matchup on this one, though, for the title with Taka Michinoku going up against Pantera. That was a
I
fun-
love Pantera. Pantera is one of those forgotten about luchadors
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
from AAA
Yeah. And then you
and
had
CMLL.
Justin Bradshaw against Justin Hawk Bradshaw against Jeff Jarrett
For
for
the
the
North American NWA North American title.
There you go. Well, and the big singles matchup on this show was Kane against Fader, which was kind of like a Fader had been. It was just like Kane was on a reign of terror. Fader was wearing a mask. Always wear masks. So they built this kind of like a mask versus mask type of thing. I mean, they weren't on the line, but just like that was like okay, they're gimmicks and big men beating the shit out of each other, and they both wear masks. What more do you need? So. Now at this point, now we're getting into the Austin era pretty much because now we're going into Unforgiven in Your House from Greensboro, North Carolina. Shout out to Dad Hat. Even though I don't think he's actually in Greensboro, but still,
Not at all.
state. Yeah, but still, it's his home state. It's his home state.
That's
Oh.
hilarious.
So this one mostly known for the first ever Inferno match. Which would be The Undertaker against Kane, which I would say probably the best Inferno match.
Yes.
But I don't know how what that really encompasses because there really wasn't a whole lot of good ones.
No.
This was a weird time frame too, because then you had Dude Love challenging Stone Cold for the title.
Yeah. And this is where Mick was hopping between the three gimmicks.
Yeah.
Like regularly.
Yeah. So it was weird, and it was like Dude Love was the corporate like representative for the WWF.
Yeah.
And then it was like
this is before he got turned on.
Yeah.
By The Rock and Vince. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You also had the New Age Outlaws defended the tag titles against Legion of Doom 2000. Ugh. What a terrible gimmick. Poor LOD. They deserve so much better.
You got two tag team title matches on this.
Yeah, because you also get the Midnight Express. No, not that Midnight Express, folks. This is Bodacious Bart and Bombastic Bob.
Bob versus
Holly
the Rock and Roll Express, the actual Rock and Roll Express.
Yep, Ricky and Robert.
Weird,
yes,
weird
very
situation.
Much so. You also had the European titles online with Triple H going against Owen Hart, which I remember correctly. I believe China was suspended above the ring in like a shark cage for that one too. I think was the gimmick. Yeah. Your opener was Farouk, Ken Shamrock, and Steve Blackman teaming up to go against the Nation of Domination. Because remember, at this point, Farouk had been kicked out by them, by The Rock, essentially. So now it's The Rock's group. And then also, I guess this was the first evening gown match, I think, in WWF.
Yes, as I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Luna Vachon against One Sable. I don't know. Dumb. That's the best way to describe it. It was fucking dumb. So now next month we go into the Over the Edge in Your House, which would see a rematch with Stone Cold and Dude Love. Only the big stipulation here is it's a Falls Count Anywhere match, and Mr. McMahon's the referee, and then his cabinet was all like Pat Patterson was the ring announcer, Briscoe was the timekeeper. But the dead man himself, The Undertaker, would show up as a special guest enforcer for this one too. So this was just a wild, weird one, man. Of course, Stone Cold retains. You get the first kind of at this point, the rivalry between the Nation of Domination and DX is just kicking off as they would meet in a 6-man tag. You do get a mask versus mask match with Kane against Vader. So picking back up where that feud was, and of course Kane would win this match.
Vader like left recent like after this.
Yeah, pretty much. I think he worked a couple more dates, but yeah, he's pretty much gone after this.
Because I don't remember ever Vader without a mask.
Well, here's the funny thing with that, Mike. He ended up still wearing a mask afterwards. So I was
That's
like,
why I was like,
what are we doing?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember Vader because I forgot the stipulation. It's like I don't remember Vader was ever out not wearing a mask. Like, and he was like working at this point, like heavily on Boy Meets World.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, he was. And I feel like the rest of the show's kind of like throwaway pretty much. I mean, you have Brock and Farouk. I mean, that was kind of a big rivalry for the IC title. But this weird one, Kai and Tai against Justin Bradshaw and Taka Michinoku.
Taka ends up turning on Bradshaw and joining.
Yep, he does. Yeah. Mark Merrow against Sable. Yeah, that happened.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That story always
Cringe. Very cringe, yeah. Jeff Jarrett against Steve Blackman. That's a shotgun Saturday night match at best.
With Tennessee Lee as Jeff. I forgot that was a thing.
Oh yeah, they turned him back to country at this point. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And of course you had LOD 2000 against the DOA.
Actually, yes,
It was a so-so. Like I say, that's another one I feel like was a throwaway. This next one's a good one though. I thought Fully Loaded in Your House, first Fully Loaded show.
Oh yeah,
this was a good one. Now the main event scene that is best match on the show by far is 2 out of 3 falls for the IC title with The Rock and Triple H pretty much, and it ended up
amazing.
going
Again, their IC title mid card feud way better than anything they did the main event scene.
1000% agree, my friend. You also had the first ever dungeon match that took place in the dungeon in Calgary with Owen Hart going against Ken Shamrock.
This was the match I was talking about where this and that match we were talking about earlier with Ken Shamrock are like my two favorites. Like it's a short match, but it's really good.
Yeah, it actually is. It's a pretty decent matchup. I agree. Of course, your main event, you get a big tag match for the tag titles with Stone Cold and The Undertaker going up against Kane and Mankind, who were the tag champs at the time. And this was what was interesting. This was like Austin and Taker getting ready to meet the next month at the infamous Highway to Hell there at Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah.
You had a bikini contest with Jacqueline and Sable. Jacqueline's titties pop out. I remember that.
Yeah, it was like
vividly
this
as a
is
kid.
that infamous thing.
Yeah, and then you get Sable with the handprint. Yeah, it was now teenage XLJ though. Oh yeah, he was all up in that. He's like, yeah, it was a good match. Might as well have been like a fucking Gotch and Hackenschmidt or something, as far as I was concerned. Now the undercard's kind of just like, it's just once again, it's like shotgun Saturday night matches.
Very much so.
Val Phoenix against Jeff Jarrett. D'Lo Brown against X-Pac. Farouk and Scorpio against Justin Bradshaw and Terry Funk. This is an interesting one. Mark Henry and Vader. Kind of a passing of the torch, so to speak, in that one. Yeah, and you had the DOA against LD 2000.
Yeah, and this was right after Paul Ellering like returns to the company and turns on LOD.
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's with 8-Ball and
Skull.
I almost said 8-Ball and MJG. I'm a rap fan.
Oh yeah.
That was hilarious. I had to stop myself there.
Oh, wrong place, brother. Now let's talk about the first Breakdown show. This was Breakdown in Your House that took place in September of '98. Now, this show is most known for Austin finally dropping the belt, but it was in like a weird fashion because it was a triple threat match for the WWF title. It was Kane and The Undertaker and Stone Cold. And Kane and Taker actually simultaneously pinned Stone Cold. Unless they would put the title, it would be Banquet going. They would put it up in the next month's pay per view, which would be Judgment Day, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Another triple threat match you had on this show was to determine the number one contender for the WWF title, and it was The Rock winning, going up against Ken Shamrock and Mankind inside of a steel cage.
Really good match.
Yeah, it's actually that's another hidden gem. Really good matchup. Really good matchup. Speaking of hidden gems, I got to talk about this one for a second. The only televised match, I believe, of record between the late great Owen Hart and Edge.
I think you're right, actually.
It's a great matchup too. It really is. And this is a rookie Edge. This is Edge just getting into the WWF as well. So,
All right, this is like Edge's first like feud.
yeah. But once again, this is that weird time frame where we got like some kind of throwaway matches. Now, although I will say this, the Bradshaw against Fader was a great matchup, which is a Falls Count Anywhere match, and that was the last Fader match. Yeah, they beat the shit out of each other. And as the story goes, Fader apparently wanted to just put Bradshaw over through the moon because he knew that was going to be his last match. So,
yeah,
great match.
Good for Vader.
Yeah, absolutely. But once again, now we get a couple of these matches. We got Mark Merrow against Draws. Al Snow and Scorpio against Too Much. Got D'Lo Brown against Gangrel. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? Just some weird random matches. We also forgot to get Foul Phoenix going up against Dustin Runnels. Because this is that weird period where he goes from the artist formerly known as Goldust to now he's like a born again Christian Dustin Runnels, which thank God that didn't last for long.
You want to know the reason he changed his name though?
Why is that?
He wasn't speaking to his father. He wanted nothing to do with his dad.
Oh, so he didn't want to be known as Rhodes, so he went by his biological.
Yeah, he went by his. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. So,
this was like from the book I read. There was like a 6-year period where they were not.
Yeah, they didn't talk at all.
Yeah. That's not his biological. That is his. That's Terry because he's married to Terry at the time. Oh yeah, no, it is his biological.
No, I was gonna say I think that the Runnels is actually Dusty. Yeah.
So. I swapped.
You're good. It's all good, bro. And now we go into the next month's In Your House, and now we're talking Judgment Day, the first Judgment Day show, by the way. So, main event, you got Kane against The Undertaker for the vacant championship. Would end in controversial fashion, as Stone Cold was the referee for reasons. And ultimately, the title would still be Banquet. Now, it would be, the issue would be resolved at next month's Survivor Series as part of that Deadly Game tournament. But once again, like you look at this and it's just like these are Sunday Night Heat, Shotgun Saturday Night, like fill-in type of matches.
The Headbangers versus the New Age Outlaws is a really good match.
Yeah, it's not a bad match, but it's just like at the time it was like it wasn't like the Headbangers was the top tier tag. You know what I mean? They were just like they were former tag champs, but like going into
they very much were on their way out. Or like off as a tag team.
Yeah. You had Goldust returned as he went up against Foul Phoenix. X-Pac against D'Lo Brown for the European title. Ken Shamrock and Mankind for the IC title.
My favorite match for this card is Christian versus Taka.
Yeah,
I like the light heavyweight division.
This was for the light heavyweight title, and this would be Christian's. I think this was Christian's first televised match too, and he would win the title.
All of a sudden, this guy gets a championship title match. Never wrestled.
Like, oh, fuck
it goes over against a Japanese legend.
Why not?
It's wild.
Like once again, this is just kind of fill in the blanks. You know, you got Al Snow and Mark Merrow. Yeah, Legion of Doom against the Disciples of Apocalypse for the umpteenth time at this point. Because fuck it, we got nothing else for him to do. Yeah, it was this is just like this is a show. Honestly, there's nothing on this worth even really talking about or going back. Not a
Sadly,
terrible show, but just
the last few In Your Houses are like that.
yeah, yep. And then we kind of get away from that, because now we go to December and we go to In Your House Rock Bottom. So if you look at the previous year, we had DX. So now we're naming a show after The Rock, pretty much. So
Yeah.
we got Rock Bottom, which isn't actually. This one's actually a pretty decent show, I think.
Yes.
You have a buried
There's
alive
some
match.
matches that are like okay, but
Yeah.
the matches that matter are really good.
Yes, 100% agree. Because you had a buried alive match with Stone Cold and The Undertaker, the second one. Of course, the stip on this one was winner would compete for a right to compete in the Royal Rumble matchup coming up in '99. So, you also have Mankind against The Rock for the WWF title. You had the Outlaws defend the tag titles against the Corporation. You had the Brood against the Job Squad. Oh dear God! There's just once again there is a lot of filler matches on this show, folks.
Yes.
You had the Outlaws against the Acolytes, D'Lo and Mark Henry against I don't even remember being called Supply and Demand. It was the Godfather and Foul Phoenix. I don't even remember them having a name.
Godfather and Val Venus.
Yeah.
So it was a predecessor to the RTC thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where they were like just kind of like filling out what they would do as a tag team.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
I'm gonna
What
eat, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Yeah, the Headbangers against the Oddities, Blackman against Owen Hart. God. Once again, this is just like kind of another throwaway. Although, they're Teenage XLJ love this one. The striptease matchup with Goldust against Jeff Jarrett. So essentially, it was the loser would have to striptease. Now, representing Jeff Jarrett was his manager at the time, Deborah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Goldust, being Goldust, if he lost, he would have had a strip. But thank God, Goldust picked up the win. And Deborah doing her little striptease on pay-per-view. I remember it like it was yesterday, my friend. God, did I wear that VHS tape out. But now we're pretty much coming to the end here, the end of the air. This is, at this point, this would be the last In Your House
of the Attitude Era.
Of the Attitude Era. And we're talking St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Which is weird because we were talking about this before we went on the air tonight. I don't even remember this or consider this as like an In Your House. I just remember it as like St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Same. When you said that, I was like, huh? That makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, Reggie's acting up. So the big thing going into this one was the cage matchup between one Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Stone Cold. So this was like at the height of their feud, so they put him in a cage. And of course,
we get the debut of Paul White.
That the big show as he would come up from the ring and ultimately would cost Mr. McMahon the matchup as he'd send him through that cage. And thus Stone Cold will get a title shot going in WrestleMania. Speaking of titles, the WWF title was on the line in a last man standing.
What a stupid thing to do for a debuting wrestler. Debut a heel by having him fuck up and fuck over the other heel.
My thing was this, though. I think... Sorry, Reggie is acting the fuck up. My thing is, I think the reason for that is that with that finish was so they could highlight Paul White's strength. Because he throws him through the cage, literally, which is kind of a cool spot when you think about it.
It's a cool spot. Just old school thinking is like, huh?
What are we doing here? Yeah. I agree. But for the WWF title, you got the Mankind against The Rock in a last man standing match. Of course, this is at the height of their feud. you also had I remember this being a big rivalry: Val Venus and Ken Shamrock for the IC title.
Not only for the IC title, but the whole situation with Val fucking Ken's sister.
Ryan Shamrock. Yeah.
That is, and then finding out later that Ryan was married to Edge at the time.
Yeah, it's weird. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Till after the fact.
it's Attitude Era is a weird time.
Yeah, a lot of weird stuff happening. You had the corporation team of China and Kang going up against DX as Triple H and X-Pac. Of course, this would be a month later. Triple H would turn and join the corporation. You also had Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart defeating D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry to retain their tag titles. The Big Boss Man and Midian, that happened. Gold Dust and Blue Dust opened the show. What the fuck? But we got to talk about this though. Huh? Blue Meanie. Yeah, Blue Meanie. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Huh?
But one of the most famous hardcore title matches of all time, Bob Holly defeating Al Snow for the Hardcore Championship. And who will forget the finish? In February, and he fucking threw Al Snow in the river.
Oh, yeah. I always thought Al was going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, he had to have been freezing. I think I remember reading, too, he got so sick after this matchup, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there you go, folks. That was pretty much the history of In Your House, at least as far as the In Your House as we would all know and grow up with. But they would revitalize In Your House for some NXT shows, too. We'll talk about them briefly. First off, it made sense when they did it because they brought it back during 2020 at the height of the pandemic. So this is when we're doing the shows from the PC Center, and it's just what a weird time. Yeah. Let me ask you, Mike, have you tried going back to watch any wrestling from that era? For
Hell
WWE?
no.
I haven't either. But there is a good matchup on this show because you got Io Shirai winning the NXT Women's Championship by defeating Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. There's good matches on this.
There's good matches on the show. It's just a weird fucking time. And this was also
Keith
where
Lee versus Johnny Gargano.
Great matchup for the North American title. Finn Balor and Damian Priest. This was also that time frame too, where it's you could pretty much guarantee you're getting one cinematic match on each show, and the cinematic match on this one was a last chance backlot brawl with Adam Cole defending the WWE NXT Championship against.
Let's not speak that dude's name.
Velveteen Dream. Ugh. I had to say it. Sorry. Also you had Karrion Kross against Tommaso Ciampa. So that was a fun one. Also, what I loved about that one too is how they brought back the aesthetics of the original, In Your House. They had that as the entrance. You had they even brought in Todd Pettengill for this, which we hadn't seen Todd Pettengill in forever at the time.
In 25 years.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and then NXT would revitalize the In Your House gimmicks for the next couple years. You had in 2021, and then they would do it in 2022 as well. Some highlights from there in 2021. You did have Karrion Kross successfully defend his NXT title in a 5-way matchup with a lot of good heavy hitters in this one. Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Pete Dunne.
That match with Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota is really good.
Yeah, against Ember Moon. Yep.
And then the feud with LA Knight and
Cameron Grimes for the $1 million title.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also I like the opener. I thought was really good too on this show. Was a winner take all 6-man tag match for the North American title and the tag championship. So you had Bronson Reed was your North American champion, and MSK is the tag champions going up against Legado del Fantasma.
Beautiful. That match is phenomenal.
Yeah. And then we talk about the last In Your House known to date. this was kind of like one of those Tuesday night NXT kind of specials they do every now and then.
Yeah.
Braun Breaker successfully defended the NXT championship against Joe Gacy. The Creeds against Pretty Deadly for the tag titles. Mandy Rose and Wendy Chu for the women's championship. Like I say, this is just more or less like an NXT show for the most part. Just
regular.
like, yeah. Carmelo Hayes and Cameron Grimes for the North American Championship was probably the big match on this show, I'd say. One of
Very
the
much so.
highlights. But there you have it, folks. That we have talked everything in your house tonight here on Learning the Ropes. At the end of the day, Mike, what do you think the legacy is of In Your House?
Some great. It was very much the middle ground for like the original WWF pay-per-views of the 80s and bringing it into that like the modern era
Mhm.
with more theatrics and more gimmicks. It was a very gimmick-heavy pay-per-view or series of pay-per-views.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, In Your House is going to be known for like just like hidden gem matches and just introducing some wild gimmick matches that we haven't been seen duplicated since, honestly, and in some cases that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But do yourself a favor, go back on Peacock, go back on the cock, watch some of these. Like, I think after we finish up here, I think that's what I'm going to do, my friend, because there's so many good ones. And like I say, that there's a ton of great hidden gem matches that people just don't talk about or have just been forgotten about because there's just, people identify with the WWF, the big four, with Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and SummerSlam. So, but in Your House was a nice filler in between. And for those of you who was budget friendly back in the day, $20 for a pay-per-view wasn't too shabby.
Okay.
Well, as we're closing out here tonight, we got to finish it up with one last plug-a-palooza. As we said, we got a lot of stuff coming up here in the coming months on Cole TV. April is going to be a huge month for us. As we announced tonight, we will have an exclusive collective week where you will see all of our vlogs from the collective, which that is going to be a bonkers week with so many shows going on during the collective. We have WrestleMania week coming up in April, as well as Squared Circle Expo week, which will be at Squared Circle Expo in Indianapolis. So if you're in the Indianapolis area in April, come check it out. Say hi to us. We got some surprises working in the works for that, so that's going to be fun. And as far as this week, you can catch a replay of Pro Wrestling 60, which is available now here on Cole TV. And don't forget to tune in next week where we've got another episode of Pro Wrestling 60. And we'll also have a brand new episode of Colecast coming your way as well. So, and our Elimination Chamber preview show and so much more coming all your way here on Cole TV. And as we mentioned, you can get some of our merch over on ProWrestlingTees.com. We've got a Cole TV shirt, a PW60 shirt, and as I said, we'll have some more coming someday, I promise. And don't forget to check out our sister network, if you will, our good brother, our other brother from our other mother's mother, Dad Hats World Championship Wreckage. There's a new episode of Wreckage out now where they talk about the Asylum years in TNA wrestling. Also, don't forget to join Mike every Monday night, along with the Wrestling Wizard Doug and Michaela for Netflix and Raw, as they do a Raw watch along every Monday night. And then be on the lookout for new Queen's Courts episodes, and God willing, at some point, the creek don't rise. You're going to see some new Fantasy Warfare episodes there too someday. Check that all out on World Championship Wreckages YouTube channel. We talked about at the beginning of the show. Want to shout out again our good buddy Hambone. He's going through some rough times. There's a GoFundMe for his dog Buddy, who was in a really rough accident this past week. Buddy is doing a little bit better, but still in a lot of pain. Still has a long road ahead. can use all the love and help and support you can. So there is a GoFundMe for him. If you follow Hambo, go check that out. And even if you can't donate, just share it. Get the word out on him. Help brother out because he's a good brother. So we love you dearly, Hambo. So, Mike, got anything you want to plug as you are having? Is that some pizza? Are you eating pizza or is that garlic bread?
No, it's a piece of bread toast. My parents made breakfast for dinner.
Oh, I love Brenner.
So, potatoes with breakfast sausage and peppers and scrambled eggs.
I
Some toast.
need to come over to the Duplessis house and have some dinner. That sounds amazing.
MJ Duplessis 1992 on all social medias, and he already plugged the rest of my stuff.
You're welcome. Well, folks, we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight as we were talking In Your House. As we said before, do yourself a favor, go back and look at some of this stuff we talked about tonight over on Peacock. There's some incredible matches, and so much more. Let's go wrap it up for this episode of Learning the Ropes. And as always, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, we'll see you on another episode of Learning the Ropes. Everybody have a great week. Bye.